welcome back. I just want to say thanks for everybody for tapping in with me on my podcast as well as YouTube. So it's been great, kind of just getting back into the groove of things. I took about, I don't know, I think it was like a 4 month break. It felt really good though. But being back feels even better because I took the time for myself. You guys know me, I'm A. Lou. This is another episode of 24-8 Lou. I have been just putting out content on content, just creating, getting back to that. And it just feels super good. Today, we're going to talk about something that I've kind of, touched on a lot of different episodes, whether it's my YouTube channel or my podcast or my social media pages. We're going to talk about trauma. And I think I feel like it's discussed, but it's more in a general sense. Like we just tell people what's going on, but we don't tell people like what it's really grinding, like what it's really doing in our lives. And it's almost like it's become a meal, a part of the day. Like we just digest. Like it's become a part of our meal plan, and we just deal with it. And we're like, cool. I don't like to name names of discussions I've had, but one of the times I've talked with somebody, they actually said, we downplay it, and they said, I'm just going through something, because I've noticed they were quiet, and they really haven't been vocal or talked about a lot of things, and they were like, I'm just going through things just like everybody else. I'll figure it out. And it is cool to have that space for yourself to figure things out, but it's also necessary to talk about it. Like we just let trauma be because we're just like, well, everybody else is dealing with this, so like, why I'm not special? Why am I any different? I should just swallow it and just keep it moving forward. Whether it's childhood trauma, relationship trauma, love, fighting fears, whatever your trauma is, whatever you've been through, it's worth talking about. You don't have to go through this fight alone. Self-esteem, confidence, anything we go through. And I tell people, like I always say that the phrase vicious cycle of trauma. Because what we took in, what we digest, and what we think is just something that's a part of life, we continue on in other generations, whether it's our kids, nephews, friends, family, whatever it is, we pass it on because we're digesting it. So we're putting it back in. Just like oxygen we take in, we put it right back into the environment. It's the same thing with trauma. We're taking all this in, not processing and embracing it, trying to get through this, and we're putting it right back. Sometimes we don't even know. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And I think that's the scary part about it. Never downplay your trauma. Never feel like it's just something that you have to be like, all right, like I'm gonna deal with it. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter if anybody cares. You should care, because it's a fight. It's a daily fight. Trust me. How I deal with my trauma, I see it. I look at it. I'm like, all right. I used to let this define me. Like when I used to be in the gym, I'd be like, yo, family life sucks. Lift, power. Like go, go, go. I would sweat out all my pain. And my pain was nothing with physical. That's what's crazy. Like the gym, I would be sore, but I wouldn't even feel it because the emotional warfare, the spiritual warfare that I was going through, that's the only thing that was pushing me. I didn't even feel the physical pain because the demons I was trying to exercise was all in here and all in here, nothing to do with my body. And I think that's the biggest thing is like before, that's how I used to work it out. I never faced it or talked about it or, sat down with myself or reached out and seeked help or therapy, anything like that. And I was just like, I'm just going to push myself to the edge. So I'm avoiding what's really going on. And I feel like because I'm doing good in this area, then that area will be outshined. That darkness, that shadow you left over there, it's growing. And when the quiet comes and the silence hits, you got to face the music, face the demons, and you're not ready for it. That trauma is about to tackle you like Ray Lewis on the 1 yard line, goal line stance. You're not getting in the end zone. You're not scoring today. It's crazy because we have to be able to. And it's scary because I deal with a lot of people in my life that some of them can handle certain things, and then some of them can't. Even with me, I do like to seek help. I do like to talk about it, because before it was all ego, all pride. Like, I ain't gonna deal with the ego and pride. If you haven't heard J. Cole said, it is the devil. Pride is the devil. Okay, it'll take you out. It's your worst enemy. Let that go. You're not getting anywhere in life with that. Okay? We can have confidence in ourselves and confidence that we can do things, but don't let that get too big to where you think you're above everything, because you're not. Okay? Humble yourself. Like, I tell people, like, I've gotten back to my Bible studies, I've gotten back to my researching, like, humble yourself. Come back to, all right? Take that step down. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's necessary. And when I see people dealing with trauma, it's a dangerous game, because the trauma that we deal with, we gaslight it, we downplay it, we like to do things that we think that nobody else can see what's really going on underneath. The way you react to certain situations, or the way you talk or not talk, the spoken language and the body language, and we see it. You know, a lot of people, they don't care enough, or it's just like they're too exhausted, or they're too drained to speak on it because they don't, you know, their own trauma. But it's like it can be seen, and you think that, you know, because you have a lot of money, or you're traveling a lot, or you're smiling a lot, or you're wearing these type of clothes, or you're doing these things, that you're covering up the trauma. But I feel like it's time to stop ignoring it and start talking about it and seeking help, and just loving yourself to know that you are worth that. You're deserving of that help. You're deserving to process past that. Your trauma shouldn't define you. It should never define you. Your trauma is just a part of life that, you know, is a test that you should be able to get through, but you have to get through. Because if you let your trauma define you, your life, then that's not your life anymore. It belongs to that. And it controls everything you do. Your every movement, your every response, how you talk to people. And it's easier said than done. I think that's what people don't realize, is that this is not something that's overnight. It's the same thing with the gym. You're not going to go in the gym in one day and get your body goals the next morning. If you are, you're a superhero. It is what it is, but it's not done overnight. And it's not done pretty much ever. It's a daily thing. It's a choice you have to make. And I think that's what I look at it as, is like when I see people, they pick and choose what they want to do, right? People are willing to invest time in things that don't serve them, right? That only bring them down or drain them. But because it feels like they give them a sense of purpose, or sense of, they find comfort in that. And they're just like, well, at least this appreciates me. Or, in the darkness, or in the sadness, or sometimes depression. They find comfort in depression because they know what to expect. Depression can't really ever disappoint you, because it's depression. It just feels good, sometimes. I like to speak real, because I've dealt with depression before. It's like a comfort zone, because you're like, well, this is not gonna let me down, because this is how I feel, and yep, nobody else will ever understand. I like to speak raw and genuine to the people who tap in with me, but I wanted to, like I always say, I like raising awareness. Don't let the trauma become a vicious cycle in your life and affect everybody else. It's mainly you, though. Because you think, you've gotten past that trauma, but it's the wardrobe that you wear. It's the speech that you talk. You know what I'm saying? It's the attitude that you're walking with. It's seen, it's felt, and it is scary. And I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out a way that works for you. Therapy may not be therapy. It may be, getting rid of certain things and people in your space. Because what you don't realize, the biggest thing about trauma, and I say this all the time, look at your relationships and friendships and everything around you. Trauma bonds. The deepest thing that people connect with is through trauma bonds. Sometimes it could help you, but sometimes it's the main reason why you haven't got out of that funk and out of that space. I think one of the biggest people that I was connected with in this world is because we had a trauma bond. We went through similar situations, and the fire and the passion we had between each other was so real because we had a deeper connection because the pain we went through and the emotional, spiritual pain we went through, that we found peace and comfort with each other. But was it really peace? It was just a trauma bond because we understood what each other was going through. And I think that's the scariest thing is trauma bonds and that we find. So sometimes it's hard to get rid of because once we let go of this bond, once we get rid of this thing out of our space, what do we have? We don't know who we are anymore because that trauma and that bond got us here, made us feel like we were complete or something in this world because this world makes us feel like nothing. So many times we had that to fall back on. I said all that to say this: try to find something that helps you. I have a lot of friends that are therapists, and they are some of the most amazing people, and I love talking with them day to day. And it's cool to have that, and to be able to speak to that because it helps to get it out. A lot of people put a lot of things in a negative light, and all they do is speak negativity, and that's why so much negative comes in their life. But they have to release. I think the releasing is therapeutic. Getting it out and then changing the way you talk, and changing from the negative speech to the positive speech, and then boom, it happens. You start to turn a corner, but it still takes daily work. That's what you have to realize. You're worth that work. Thank you all for tapping in with me again. I appreciate all of you. You guys know me. I'm A-Lou. This is another episode of 24-8-Lou. You guys know my mantra: sage, sacrifice, achieve, grow, exceed. And until next time, y'all stay blessed. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Life with Lou. I'm A-Lou, and until next time, y'all have a good one.